Before we get into this video, I'm just going to quickly ask you to watch this clip from this weekend.
So her room, like, I'm not gonna lie, we both like have ADHD and ADHD piles.
Now listen to this from January 2025, about 7 months prior.
Have you ever been assessed or evaluated for ADHD? Because girl, I see all the signs in you. So I have been assessed by a psychologist, and the psychologist then said, you need to be like actively evaluated because you show signs, as that person said. And this was when I was living in Kentucky. So I had scheduled an appointment, but it was literally for 6 months away. And I ended up moving because me and my girlfriend at the time broke up, and I was ready for a change. I did not belong in Kentucky anymore. And I think I had like 3 months to go until my appointment. But obviously, since I moved, I wasn't able to attend the appointment. So I still have not been evaluated.
Oh, was that Amberlynn Reid confidently stating that she has ADHD despite having never been formally diagnosed? Yes, that's exactly what that was. I know that people can be pretty sure that they have ADHD, but according to what I've seen, a self-diagnosis is not possible. And if you feel that you have ADHD, you should get assessed. There are lots of online like ADHD self-screening tools. I'll link one downstairs. But all of those recommend that you do the screening and then go and seek a professional diagnosis. I'm not trying to discredit those people who feel strongly that they have ADHD and then go and get a formal diagnosis or get assessed. I wish those people all the luck in the world. It's just that Amberlynn Reid hasn't been assessed. So why, last weekend, was she confidently stating, I have ADHD? Weird, huh? And this is not the only time this has happened. Here is Amber in 2016 claiming that she has OCD.
I do have obsessive compulsive disorder, not just, oh, I have OCD, but I actually have the disorder in several different aspects of my life.
But then, in May 2022, in a video called I Lied and I'm Sorry, Amber says this.
No, never been diagnosed with OCD because I've never been tested, but I have been diagnosed with OCPD because I have been tested.
So she admits here that she was lying about having been diagnosed with OCD and that she hasn't even been tested. But then, in December of 2022, just 7 or 8 months later, Amber says this.
I suffer with massive anxiety. I have trauma. These things are professionally diagnosed, been diagnosed.
So in May of 2022, Amber has not been tested for OCD, but then by December 2nd of 2022, suddenly she claims that these things are professionally diagnosed. Interesting, huh? And I think it's interesting because Amber always talks about her diagnoses, medical stuff, anything that happens to her medical related is always on her channel. But at no point between the months of May 2022 and December 2022 does Amber make any mention of being assessed or checked for OCD. So I think it's very clear here that she's lying when she says in this video that she was professionally diagnosed with OCD. Also, this is further confirmed to me in this video here called Lab Results Weight Loss Surgery Update and Am I a Spoiled Brat, where Amber says this.
And I don't know if this is like because I have that obsessive side of me, like I was diagnosed with OCPD, which is obsessive compulsive personality disorder. I was diagnosed with that like 5 years ago, and it was just like a couple years ago I was diagnosed with actual OCD. You can have both.
Now I admit that this is a technicality, but Amber says here that just a couple of years ago she was diagnosed with OCD, but only 1 year and 2 months before that, in May 2022, Amber is here telling us that she hasn't even been tested for OCD. She could have misspoken here, she could have said a couple of years and she actually meant 1 year and 2 months, whatever. But once again, every other medical thing that has ever happened to Amber has been used as content on her channel. But in those months, May 2022 through to December 2022, Amber does not make any comment of being assessed for OCD. We see her mention every other medical thing, even down to her being tested for Hashimoto's disease. So what are the chances that in those months, Amber was fully assessed for OCD and diagnosed, and she just never mentioned it? I highly doubt it. She then makes it even more suspicious in a recent video from just a couple of months ago. It's this video here where she says this.
I wanted to ask about your OCD that you are diagnosed with. I was wondering why you rarely talk about it anymore in recent memory. I know you are open about your BPD and those struggles. I'm just wondering why any of your other diagnoses don't get that attention, or is it like a personal reason, or... But thank you.
it's because of the backlash. Like, anyone in my personal life knows the things that I deal with to an extent. But like now, sometimes like I catch myself just saying my anxieties, like my contamination anxieties. And I know that it's a lot further than that. And there's things that I do that a lot of people would not believe me if I spoke about it. And to me, it's something that like I genuinely deal with constantly. Like, I have mentioned it like just the tiniest little bit, and just the way that people react, like it makes me feel really sad. So I'm like, ugh, maybe I need to stop talking about this, because it's something I already struggle with. Like, my mom sees me struggle with it. Like, people I've been in relationships with, they see me struggle with it. Like, it's not something that I take very lightly.
So somebody asks Amber about the OCD that she has been diagnosed with, and we see her do this annoying kind of like nod that she does, as if to say, oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, that OCD diagnosis that I invented for attention. But the person asks her, as you've heard, why don't you talk about your diagnosis? And she actually has the gall to say that it's because of the backlash. And she goes into this sob story about how it's sad that people don't believe her and it really upsets her. As if she isn't the one who publicly on her YouTube channel in 720p sat there telling us that she lied about having OCD in the past. And then, in my opinion, evidenced by what I've shown you so far in this video, she goes on to continue lying about it. I can't speak for you guys, but I have no sympathy for this like, woe is me, no one believes my diagnosis kind of storyline that Amber has going on. No one believes you because you lie constantly about all kinds of things, including diagnoses, and you have admitted to lying about this very OCD diagnosis in the past. And you appear, from what I can see, to have continued lying about it after the fact. Her saying she doesn't talk about it because of the backlash is actually a joke. You heard in a clip I played a minute ago Amber claiming to have OCD and OCPD, and I looked into this, and it is worth mentioning that OCD and OCPD are very different, and they appear in completely different parts of the DSM-5, but yes, you can have both. But the point of all of this is to prove to you, the viewer, the consumer of the ALR content, that this is somebody who does lie about diagnoses, and it's really, really shit. So you can't be that surprised when I tell you that I also believe that she is lying about her borderline personality diagnosis as well. If you want to hear about the specific discrepancies and like suspicions that I have surrounding that story and the fuck-ups in her timeline, you can go and watch this video here. As I've already spent a lot of time in that video explaining why I don't believe Amber on her BPD diagnosis, I'm going to give you a very short TLDR in this video, but do go and watch that one if you want like the full details. This video is not me claiming that she doesn't have BPD, so I'm just going to quickly touch on that now and then we'll move on. But basically, in a nutshell, Amber claimed that she was diagnosed with BPD in both 9 months and 5 months. And as I've shown multiple times on my channel, she is infamous for her prolific lying, and she continues to refuse to show evidence for this diagnosis, despite her willingness to show evidence for many other things, including medical diagnoses. For example, this video here where she shows us her A1C to attempt to prove that she doesn't have diabetes yet. However, I did recently change my mind on this situation a tiny bit. In my previous video, I basically encourage Amber to show proof of her BPD diagnosis, which upon reflection, I don't actually think was a good move from me for a couple of reasons. Firstly, I'm certain that Amber doesn't have proof. If she had it, she would have shown it by now, I think. So me asking her to show it over and over again is kind of just me forcing the point unnecessarily. And to be honest, I'm confident that she doesn't have proof, so I shouldn't keep on asking her to show it when I know she hasn't got it. Also, on my last video, somebody commented this: I don't think she needs to show proof of BPD because she's using it as an excuse for bad behaviour, and it doesn't matter if she has it or not. She's responsible for her own actions and she refuses to get help. I don't think normalising proving mental illness is a good idea. People just need to keep shooting down the fact that she uses it as an excuse. Whether she has it or not, fundamentally, it's irrelevant when it comes to her shitty behaviour. If she's diagnosed, she has even more resources and answers to get help, so there's absolutely no excuse. And you know what? This person has got a bloody good point. Demanding that people show proof of their diagnoses is probably not a smart move, and for most people, I would never do this. I wouldn't dream of doing this to somebody in person ever, and I think the reason that I have done it in this instance online with Amber is because I'm so sick of her lying, and I'm so frustrated with her for using BPD as an excuse and just generally being an arsehole. But yes, technically I should not be sat on the internet demanding that people show their private medical documents, and I do get that, and I think I'm only really doing it with Amber as like almost a bit of a farce, because I know that she doesn't have the document to show. So I'm almost trying to just keep making the same point, which I think is actually kind of icky. So I'm going to stop doing that. And I think this person is right. It doesn't matter whether Amber actually has a formal diagnosis of BPD or not, because what she's doing is still harmful either way. Now, I will say that I do think what she's doing is worse if she doesn't even have the diagnosis, because she's increasing the stigma of something that she hasn't even fucking got. But I think this person is right. Technically what she's doing is really bloody shit, whether she has the condition or doesn't. So, although I am 99% sure that Amber is lying about having a formal BPD diagnosis, I'm not going to bang on about that in this video, because for what I'm going to say here, it doesn't actually matter whether she has it or not. And to be clear, I'm not saying that I believe she doesn't have BPD at all. I think she may well have it. What I'm saying is that I think she's never been formally assessed, and that she may well have something else, possibly NPD, which does share lots of traits with BPD, and that fundamentally, if she hasn't been assessed and formally diagnosed, then she doesn't know which one she's got, and she's got a huge platform, and I think she has no business claiming a diagnosis that she hasn't been tested for, and then using that condition as an excuse for her horrendous behaviour. So, over the past few months, preceding the Emily, Snowflake and Auntie Tammy Geordie interviews, Amber had already been accused of using her BPD as an excuse for her shitty behaviour. In this clip from March of this year, someone told Amber that they think that she's using BPD as an excuse for her behaviour, and she says this.
You use BPD as an excuse. I have it. You give us. I don't know what the rest of that is, but thanks for super chat. See, the thing with borderline personality disorder, it is a personality disorder. Like, your personality is like a lot of what you are and who you are on an everyday basis, you know, because it's a personality disorder. So, you know, it's hard for me to ever give a reason for something, you know, when BPD is the fuel to the way I react to some things or whatever it may be. Like, it's hard for me to be like, that's not the reason, when, you know, when it is.
Now, if you listen closely here, you hear Amber say that BPD is the fuel to why she reacts how she does. This sentence completely misses the part where Amber is responsible for her own actions. Saying BPD is the reason I react a certain way is very, very flawed, because it suggests that Amber is not accountable in how she reacts because she has BPD. But that's not the case, and it's absolutely an instance of her using BPD as an excuse. Of course, there are other instances of this. When someone leaked her crumble cookie video, Amber got very, very upset and went on a spree of posting angry community posts, and she went into Geordie's live stream chat, and following that she made this video here where she gives this explanation of her behaviour.
And they were calling me a liar, and on top of it I already felt violated, etc., etc. I snapped. As embarrassing as it is, I had a very mini BPD meltdown. I was not able to regulate my emotions in that moment because it was like thousands of people were calling me a liar over something that I literally am not lying about. Truly, in that moment, like, I felt like the whole world was against me. So during that episode that I had, like, I was out of character. Like, I was in his chat saying things that I normally wouldn't say. I was posting on my community tab, and then people were saying that I was drunk. Like, no, literally I was completely sober. Like, what you witnessed was a symptom of my BPD. And I know a lot of people are like, you're just making excuses. Fine, let it be an excuse. But I'm literally explaining to you and trying to give you an explanation of the reason why I was behaving the way I did. A lot of people suffer with mental illness, and BPD is painful, and it turns you into someone that you're literally not. And I understand that is very much the reason why I need to go to therapy, because of situations like this, when it does feel like the whole world is against you, I need to learn how to regulate my emotions, because I could not do it last night.
In this clip, not only does she shamelessly use BPD as an excuse again, she even admits to doing this in the video. She literally says, let it be an excuse. She says she's just telling us why something happened. And this is really frustrating, because she just will not fathom the concept that things happen because she chooses to do them. Having BPD may well for sure be affecting her and making it harder, but how she acts is still her own responsibility. And I know that having BPD can make your emotions very strong and very hard to regulate, but if that's the case and those emotions are really difficult, you need to have therapy and take responsibility for it. But of course, not only does Amber refuse to take accountability for her behaviour, instead blaming it on her BPD, but she in fact blames her BPD on her childhood too. Watch this.
I rarely talk about the traumatic things that happened to me as a young adult but I always go back to the things that happened to me in my childhood because those are the reasons why I am in therapy. Those are the reasons why I have BPD. That is why I have anxiety, paranoia, why I reached almost 600 pounds at one point, why I turned to food for emotional reasons, why I'm a food addict. The list can literally go on because of my childhood. If I do not confront those things head on, I will never change.
And sure, it is true that if Amber has BPD or whichever personality disorder she may have, it would have been formed during her childhood. But that still does not mean that she's allowed to use it as an excuse for being a raging asshole. Also, note here that Amber says if she never faces this head on, she'll never change. And to be honest, that's kind of what we've seen happening. So Amber's been using BPD as an excuse for a long time, possibly more subtly over the past couple of years or so, but the gloves and the mask, I would say, have really come off, particularly over the weekend before last where Emily did her interview with Mr. Snowflake and Amber went live 4 times to defend herself from allegations made against her of all kinds of bad things, manipulation, lying, DV, aggression. So Amber went live in order to try and defend herself. I also want to say here that Emily, in my opinion, is also awful. Watch the second half of this video if you want to know more about her proclivities. But despite Emily being a far from perfect character, the things that she brought to light about Amber and the way that Amber responded have shown us the true lengths which Amberlynn Reid will go to when it comes to defending herself. She will say everything she can possibly say to avoid taking any kind of accountability or admitting even the tiniest bit of wrongdoing. And one of the most harmful ways that she does this, in my opinion, is by blaming her imaginary BPD diagnosis. Here are a couple of highlights or bits from those lives which I thought were particularly bad.
And then I get another text. I have video proof of you being terrible to me. Yes. A video proof of me reacting to your betrayal, me unmedicated with BPD. Correct.
So at this point, we are 1 minute and 5 seconds into the first live stream, and boom, Amber's already played the trump card, the BPD. She really is drawing on the Narcissism 101 classes here. It's giving, look what you made me do. I was reacting to you. This is your fault. And if you thought that was bad, listen to this.
It got to the point where I started going into the other room just to sleep because she wouldn't stop arguing with me when I was trying to rest before a shift. That happened one time. And it's when everything hit the fan. And I followed you in there with my BPD meltdown, my tantrum. Yeah, I did. And I'm able to admit that. My pain turned me into a monster because of what you did.
My pain turned me into a monster because of what you did. Your actions caused me to behave in this way, so me being an asshole to you is your fault. So toxic. Now, it's fine to say things like, what you did made me feel X. Of course, you can tell people how you feel. That's so valid. But what's not okay is to say, what you did made me do X. Your feelings are fine, but your actions are still your responsibility. Now, I was going to use my own words to explain why I think Amber blames her BPD for everything and why it's so damaging, and I am going to go on to do that a bit in this video. But I also want to read you this comment under one of my videos that I stumbled across recently, and it gets the point out so perfectly. This person writes, by using BPD as an excuse for your behaviour, you're only reinforcing harmful stereotypes and further stigmatising those with the disorder. There are many people with BPD who are actually working on healing and managing emotional dysregulation to avoid outbursts. Stop spreading misinformation about this disorder and stop flirting with the idea of getting help. Go to therapy like many of us have been advising. Your portrayal, based on unverified TikTok-based theories, misrepresents the reality of the disorder and negatively impacts the healing BPD community. Do you even care about that? Probably not. This is the crux of the issue of what Amber is doing. And it's absolutely true that BPD is a highly stigmatized disorder. There are articles everywhere explaining how the stigma affects people with BPD, how it affects people within the medical industry. There are loads and loads of forums and support groups specifically for people who have loved ones with BPD. I really recommend this Psychology Today article called We Are Still Fighting the Stigma of Borderline Personality Disorder, which was written by somebody who has BPD, and she details some of her struggles with the stigma, and it's a really interesting read if you fancy it. I've linked it downstairs. But I thought that rather than just read that, I would go one better and show you guys some messages between myself and people who have reached out to me on Instagram who actually have BPD. and they share how Amber using it as an excuse for her behaviour makes them feel. I just want to say here that because I'm clearly turning into Amberlynn Reid, obviously, I got loads and loads and loads of DMs. Obviously, I can't show everyone's DMs. Lots of the stuff that people sent me was really personal. Please know that I read all of the messages, even if I didn't reply to you. I tried to reply to as many people as I could, but I am going to show some messages with the consent of the people involved, obviously. So lots of the messages that I got, and these are from people who have BPD, loads of them just show like general frustration and disgust. This is one of those. This person says, in my opinion, you can recognise that your patterns are harming others. Regardless of what you say is the cause of those patterns, you get help to stop that from happening. You do not continue to do it and think you have a golden ticket to avoid accountability. Plenty of people live with trauma, mental illness, a word I probably can't say because of YouTube, without causing others harm. She's making a choice there. It's not beyond the realm of control to improve her behaviours like she makes it seem by blaming her BPD. Zero excuses for hurting others ever. This person describes Amber's use of BPD as a golden ticket to avoid accountability, and I think that feels really true. Amber doesn't want to do the work. She doesn't want to have the therapy, she doesn't want to spend the time working on herself, she wants to stay exactly how she is so she can keep blaming everything she does on her BPD. This person here, short and sweet, says, I personally think it just adds to the stereotype that people with BPD are like and stuff, so I think it fucking sucks. It's a short comment, but it hits the nail on the head, and there were loads and loads and loads of messages from people like this, saying things like, I work so hard on my BPD, I try really hard not to be a bad person, and how infuriating it is to see Amber just increasing the stigma. And the stigma does matter. It makes it hard for other people who have BPD to disclose their diagnoses. They don't want to tell their loved ones, their friends and family, sometimes even their therapists, people who could give them support, because they're scared of being judged. Look at this person's message here. This person discusses the shame they felt when they were diagnosed, and they say this. When they were diagnosed, I didn't know exactly what it was, and when I looked it up, a lot of online discourse regarding it was that they're all manipulative, abuse, who should be avoided at all costs. This is not only untrue, but when people like Amber, who clearly don't have the condition but are, I'm a bit worried about saying that word too many times, but who are a word, it reinforces that negative stereotype that people like me who actually have the condition have to fight back against. Having a mental health condition does not make you an abuser, your actions do. And this is absolutely true. And this is what Amber needs to hear. Amber is famously bad at receiving feedback. I've said this a million times. There's actually an interesting bit in one of her recent Let's Talks where there's a girl who's drunk who has left her a voice message, and she says something really interesting and accurate, I think, about how having BPD is not an excuse to harm your partners. I'll put the whole clip here.
Bro, maybe I am the problem. So relatable. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep doing this.
Thousands of people don't hate you just because you're fat. You can be in.
There is a lot of people who hate me just because I'm fat. I will say that. But that could be in a whole separate thing. Like, there are people who hate me because I'm fat, and then there's people who hate me because I have done things that are kind of hecticana, and they've been online, so people have seen that.
Asshole. And you take therapy seriously. Everyone leaves and quote unquote turns on you because you're the problem. That's harsh, but your online behavior portrays you as a mean-ass bitch. And your past partners just show that it's true. I hope that
she drunk.
And really take therapy seriously and get your BP tree on control.
BP tree?
It's really serious and you need to fix it.
Girl. Relatable. We both need to fix it. That was a lot. I love a drunk voice memo. That was fun.
Hopefully you've just watched it. So you hear Amber laugh and go, girl, you are drunk. But the funny thing is, this drunk person is saying exactly what Amber needs to hear. And once again, she just writes it off and won't listen to it because the person is drunk. Although technically this girl is actually drunk. But she's completely right. Now, as we said, Amber may have BPD, we just don't know. But the person in the comment that I just showed you says that the stigma that surrounds BPD is something that they have to fight back against. And I think that sounds really shit and really sad, and I'm sorry that that's the situation that people who have BPD are in. And I also think this person really hits the nail on the head again, because they say at the end of their comment, having a mental health condition doesn't make you a word I shouldn't say too many times, but your actions do. And the thing is that Amber absolutely does feed into the BPD stereotypes. She says things like this.
I'm about to have a BPD meltdown here on live. Can you imagine? Literally, behind my back, you've said awful things about me. You've done it publicly knowing that I would see it. If you were afraid of me, you would have never done those things. Not only that, if you were afraid of me, you would have never verbally abused. I've said that word so many times. This is not going to be monetized. Like, you wouldn't have verbally, is there another word for that? You wouldn't have verbally me repeatedly to my face, in text, in Messenger, in this, in that, on FaceTime, on the phone. You wouldn't have done those things if you were afraid of me. You're not afraid of me. There's nothing to be afraid of. There is nothing to be afraid of. Yes, you could be afraid of a BPD meltdown because those can be kind of hecticana. Not gonna lie about it.
There's also the clip that I've already showed you where Amber says that the reason she behaves how she did on that live stream is because she was having a BPD tantrum. But if we go to the live stream and look at how Amber behaved, she was absolutely vile. She was angry, she shouted, she acted like a total brat. I think she was so toxic. And horrible. So for her in the following stream to say that this is just a BPD meltdown and it's something that's gonna happen if you've got BPD, it paints people who actually have BPD out in a really awful light. Just after the clip where she talks about how she was having a tantrum in the stream, she even goes on to blame her rage on Emily.
We'd get into arguments and she just wouldn't let anything go. That is fucking you. That is literally you to a T. And I sit here and I rage and I rage and I rage because you pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed. You lied, you cheated, you betrayed, you lied, you did secret shit, you verbally abused me, etc., etc. The list literally, genuinely goes on. I have never been more gaslit and manipulated in my life. I have never felt the way that you made me feel in my life by anyone I have ever been in a relationship with, ever in my whole entire life. I've never experienced something like that, ever. And I told my mom exactly the way that you made me feel. And you know what she told me? Amberlynn, that's exactly how I felt with your dad. The shit that my dad would put my mom through was terrifying, and I had to witness that. The fact that you made me feel the way that my dad made my mom feel is fucking sick.
So we hear her say, I rage and I rage and I rage because you push and push. Once again suggesting that her raging is Emily's fault. And she compares how Emily made her feel to how her very, 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 very bad dad made her mum feel. Once again suggesting that Amber's actions are fine because of what Emily did. You hurt me, so my reactions are your fault. And this mention of rage directly relates to her BPD because Amber claims that it's something that she experiences because of the BPD.
I don't even know where I'm at right now. I'm just like, the fact that she's threatening to share a video of me half naked while I was fucking, I'm telling you, if you guys have ever seen BPD rage, if you ever seen someone having an actual BPD meltdown from betrayal and constant, I'm gonna, I think she's a narcissist. I've never said that about anyone in my life. She would do all of these fucking things behind my back. Imagine how she treated me behind closed doors.
Also notice how she starts off by mentioning her rage, her own bad behaviour, but she then blames it on BPD and then somehow manages to steer what she's saying into blaming Emily for loads of other stuff too. I'm not defending Emily, not by any means, I'm just looking at what Amber's doing here. Throughout these lives, over and bloody over and fucking over, she blames what she did on her BPD, and it's really, really, really bad. Now don't get me wrong, I know that some people who have BPD do really struggle in this way and they can sometimes feel rage and they can get mad if they have meltdowns. I'm not saying that this doesn't happen. But I will say that one of the key things that I've seen pop up over and over again in the messages I received, and granted, this might not be the case for all people who have BPD or all situations, but something that I kept seeing and that I haven't mentioned yet is the remorse that the people with BPD seem to feel after the fact. Now, I think that this remorse is really important. So many people with BPD that I heard from detailed how they go on to feel really, really, really bad for how they let their reactions affect their partners or friends or family. For example, this person here mentions remorse and they say this. Amber basically says BPD equals abuse. And it sucks to see because while yes, I've witnessed the BPD meltdowns from my family member, just randomly changing her mood, it's never emotionally abusing us. It's actually usually a response to R40, which is a certain kind of red food dye, but it's usually caused by that or being told she can't do something, but it never turns into emotional abuse. She just gets emotional and starts getting almost cold towards us, barely responding. Every case is unique, obviously, very true, but what I've witnessed with my versus Amber is completely different. One is an emotional response that comes with remorse afterwards, and the other is an emotional attack with zero remorse. And I think this is so interesting. It does sound, and a lot of people have said, and I'll go on to show you more comments, that regularly people who have BPD, who have these kind of breakdowns or hurt people's feelings that they love, afterwards they feel really bad. But have we ever seen Amber feel really bad? No. We've only ever seen Amber double down on the tantrum and claiming that it's fine because of the BPD. In fact, I don't know that we've ever seen any remorse about anything from Amber. When she uses her BPD as an excuse, she never admits that her actions were wrong. There's that clip where she talks about, I might have shown it already in the video, but she mentions how she follows Emily from room to room, and she goes, it was one time. She never says, oh yeah, I did do that and that was bad. Even in admitting that she did it, she still tries to deflect and say, oh, well, it was only once. Or when she blackmailed Auntie Tammy, she went, oh, well, I was only 20. You still blackmailed a DV victim. Not only did she blackmail a DV victim, but she blackmailed them with the DV that they were experiencing. Because Amber said to Auntie Tammy, how do you think your husband would feel or react if he knew this was happening? According to Tammy, everybody in the family knew that her ex-husband was physically bad to her. So that means that Amber knew that that was what would happen, and yet she still mentioned it, she still used it to blackmail Tammy. It's absolutely fucking vile. And I just can't get over that clip where she says, my pain turned me into a monster because of what you did. There is no admission of wrongdoing on her part, there is no remorse whatsoever. Somebody else also mentioned remorse, it was really interesting, I'll quickly read it to you. I think remorse and responsibility is one of the main giveaways that Amber's mental health issues might not be exactly what she claims them to be. With BPD, guilt can be extremely overwhelming, and from what I've seen, she's only admitted to being guilty and doing wrong a handful of times. I would actually say maybe she hasn't admitted ever. Or if she has, she's done it because she knows she has to, and she makes an excuse at the same time. And in the same sentence, she's also excusing the behaviour because someone else also did something wrong. Though it's quite obvious that she isn't completely well, and she seems to be struggling with quite a few things. I agree. I don't think the diagnoses she's claimed are correct, and attaching herself to a diagnosis is not in any way going to help her feel better. And that was another theme in a lot of the messages that I got from these people. Lots and lots of individuals who have BPD work fucking hard every day to try and handle their BPD. They go to therapy, they practice good communication, they're self-aware, they try their best to improve. I know this isn't true of all people with BPD, but those people who want to heal and are trying, they are absolutely out there, and they want to heal from a condition which causes them so much internal struggle. And for them to see somebody like Amber with such a massive platform just further stigmatizing the condition that they struggle with and fight every single day rather than use her platform for good is so shit. Another person also writes, I started watching Amberlynn age 12 and enjoyed her vlog style videos because I resonated with her various struggles. Now at 21, with diagnoses alongside BPD, I see her behaviour resonating with the 12-year-old as reasonable, as she clings to immaturity, seemingly not understanding that one's diagnoses are not nearly as important as what one chooses to do with that information, choosing oneself instead of the diagnosis. Those with BPD are said to have more intense emotions, said Amber. While feeling emotions is crucial to positive mental health, it is again not as important as what you choose to do with that emotion. Let me reiterate, it is a conscious choice to react. It isn't common for those with BPD to be totally unaware of alternative perspectives, which is why I feel as if Amber's refusal to see the audience's point of view and consistently victimise herself is something deeper, despite being reminiscent of a wide-eyed teenage tantrum. Sincerely, a mentally ill psychology major. This is really interesting to me as well because there's a bit in one of Amber's videos, I don't have this in the script so I'll chuck it in, it might be a bit messy, where Amber describes how she can hear the voice in her head telling her to stop.
What's the hardest part about having BPD? It's the fact that you cannot regulate your emotions. Sometimes it feels physically impossible. Like during a BPD episode, which are actually sometimes called BPD tantrums, and that's not like in a rude way or whatever. It sounds rude because it's like tantrum, like calm down now. Like I'm not throwing a tantrum, but that is just what it's called. So during those episodes, my rational self is still in here. She is like screaming at me, Amberlynn, stop. Amberlynn, calm down. Amberlynn, it's gonna be okay. Regulating those emotions and calming down, it literally feels like someone is telling you, you have to travel outside into space and I want you to carry the world on your shoulders. That's not possible. It truly feels impossible to regulate your emotions. And I'm fully aware that DBT therapy can help with that.
Hopefully you guys just heard that. From what I remember, that clip shows that Amber does have control over her behaviour because she can feel as she's behaving that way that she needs to stop, but she ignores the voice. She says, oh, it's completely impossible, or regulating my emotions is completely impossible, but it's definitely not. You just have to do the work. And I think this is kind of the bottom line. Whether Amber has BPD or NPD or whatever the heck else, she doesn't want to do the work. She wants to just use it as an excuse. She doesn't want to grow. She seems to not want to heal. And this kind of ties, I think, into her not being formally diagnosed, because one of the first steps of doing the work and trying to develop and heal is getting diagnosed. Facing the truth of what you may or may not have, considering that maybe what you think you have is not what you actually have. It's pretty brave and scary to go for a diagnosis like this. It requires some serious honesty, and I don't think Amber has that. I think that Amber doesn't try, and she doesn't want to improve because she wants to keep her excuse and she wants to be a victim. I did want to end this video on a slightly more positive note. Listen to what this person said here. I don't have BPD, but my roommate does, and we both watch your videos. Hi. I commented on your recent video about this too, but the main thing is when Amber says her BPD makes her act crazy, which is just an unfair and outdated way to try and justify bad things she does. It's also hurtful to me because my roommate is incredibly caring and empathetic, and for Amber to place negative personality traits onto a disorder like that and say it makes her evil is just cruel and wrong. And I've seen lots of comments and stuff as I've been going through all of this that show that there are people that have BPD out there that are doing the work, and it sounds, from what I can tell, like BPD is something where there is a real possibility of healing and feeling better and developing good relationships. It's just a shame that this doesn't seem to be an outcome that Amber wants. She doesn't seem to want to do the work, because instead of taking responsibility for herself like an adult, she wants to blame other people, her childhood, her circumstances, her trauma, her audience, her BPD, for every problem in her life. Those are my current thoughts on the BPD stuff from Amber. There are more things I could have said, but I'm using a new editor and I'm like, I don't want to have this video be crazy long and be a nightmare to edit, so I'm going to leave that video there for now. I just want to say an absolutely huge thank you to everybody who helped me with this video, all you guys who messaged me your feelings in your comments, who I had conversations with, including those of you whose comment I just read and sent you like a short answer, or some people I think I haven't even replied to. I really appreciate you being so honest and sharing your experiences with me, and what everybody has said kind of came together to form this video, so even if I didn't read your comment, it did still help me massively. I know there are some things I didn't say that I could have said, so if you have BPD, or even if you don't and you have some thoughts that you want to share about this, please by all means leave them in the comments below, and thank you all very much for your time. I'll see you guys in my next video. Take care.